Well, social media lit up for the second time in a week over a video of President Biden. Biden and the G7 leaders were watching a skydiving demonstration in Italy when Biden walked away from the group to perhaps address or greet one of the parachutists. Watch. Well, that wasn't Biden's only awkward moment. He later snapped at a reporter during a rare joint news conference. Watch.
Can you give us your assessment of Hamas's response? And do you believe that they are trying to work towards a deal, or is this response working against a deal? And what is your message to allies, including those here at the G7, about what more, if anything, the U.S. can do to drive towards a peace agreement? Thank you.
I wish you guys would play by the rules a little bit. I'm here to talk about a critical situation in Ukraine. You asked me another subject.
Even CNN called out the president for that response. Watch.
He's been snippy recently about being asked multiple questions in these press conferences, which we should just be clear, and we're both former White House correspondents, these are very limited. This president he falls far below his predecessors when it comes to interviews and when it comes to press conferences. We just need to be clear about that. They have a lot of questions to ask him, and these reporters do not have many opportunities. They've all dragged themselves to Italy for this G7 summit to do one thing, their jobs, ask these questions.
That's right. And Jeremy, the White House Correspondents Association released a statement where they said, of course, look, the president can choose, how many questions that he has time for or who he calls on. But he's not going to dictate the subject of our questions to the president of the United States.
That's right. I mean, he clearly is so used to being coddled and used to these reporters just, asking him questions that he wants to answer as opposed to asking the tough questions. And this reporter is asking about a serious conflict going on in the Middle East right now. Our partner, Israel, is clearly dealing with a lot of these attacks from Hamas and from Hezbollah in the north. And so you're not going to actually even address it at all. And you're the commander in chief. I think a lot of times we have to start looking, and a lot of voters are going to start thinking, is this the best representative of our country? Is this the best that we have to offer when you look at the United States of America? And I don't think it is.
And Dagan, I pose that question to you through the lens of the global eyes that are looking at the president right now in Italy. What are your top line thoughts of how the world has seen the president at the G7 summit?
Can I be blunt? I don't care what the world thinks of the United States. I care what the U.S. voters think of Joe Biden in this moment. Not to be crass. But this nonplussed president is leaving Europe and the peace summit and is heading to this Holly-weird elitoid fundraiser. And Kamala Harris will be overseas to act in his stead. And everybody ought to pay attention to that. It's stunning optics. Take a good look, because if Joe Biden got elected for another 4 years, that would happen, her stepping in full time. Because by the end of another 4 years, he will not be a self-caring adult male, period. So that's what would happen, is he would be left behind and she would be doing the job of president full time.
I'm going to go hide under the bed. Let's see.
Yeah, I think Dagan's absolutely right. And I think people do get embarrassed when the president stumbles on the world stage, because we want someone who is strong. We want someone who has a very clear vision of what our country needs and where we fit on the global stage. And it's like, he's like Nana that just sort of toddled away from the picnic, and everyone's like, Nana, come back here, Nana. Okay, we're having cake. So, Dagan says he won't be a self-caring man in 4 years. He's not going to be a self-caring man in 4 months. I worry that he got bit on the head by Champ.
Champ, oh my goodness. He just watches those attacks. Kayleigh, I want to dig a little deeper into what Dagan said about the vice president taking over, because we covered here where she sort of she has displayed during her entire tenure an inability to be flexible or arguably graceful about not having earned her spot and I deserve this respect. And we covered that she declined many meetings with first spouses, saying that I'm the second person in command in the United States, so treat me as such. But here in the United States, for example, a first lady went on to become Secretary of State. So these kind of snubs that she has displayed and continues to display in Europe, on the world stage, will they affect, do you think, her success there and the relationship with our allies?
We'll see, but she's clearly on the world stage trying to up her chops for commander-in-chief. We'll see if that works. I just quickly want to address Biden with the reporter yesterday and the White House Correspondents Association that came out and said, look, we don't choose topics, or the president, rather, doesn't choose topics. I'm very critical of the White House press corps. Just go back and watch my press briefings from 2020. But let me just say, yesterday they did their job. The first reporter was from the Associated Press. They not only asked about Russia, but they asked about Hunter, and that is exactly what they should have asked about. Then you get to the second reporter, Josh Wingrove from Bloomberg, and he asked about the Gaza war. That's a fair topic. And then President Biden lashed out. If you're going to lash out because you're asked a substantive, good question from a press corps that's typically friendly to you, buckle up, buddy. You got Donald Trump coming your way in about a week and a half on the debate stage.
Mm-hmm. Hey, everyone. I'm Emily Compagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kayleigh McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.